Hey guys, just wanted to go through a couple of details on best practices that we see implemented and working really well for making mileage logs. I'll go ahead and sign in here, just make a new account. So the idea here is we want to create a log for, let's say, Uber driving, okay? And the first thing to note is that we're going to use business miles, but we're definitely going to make sure we add personal miles because typical mistake of a novice user that's building a log, 99% of all people who are taking the Schedule C deduction also use their vehicle for personal usage. So I want to make sure I get some mileage in there for personal. This is going to be for year prior. So let's go back, click here, go back to 2019, and that gets set up January to December of 2019 automatically. And then add a vehicle. So this is a common vehicle for rideshare driving. Type in our odometer. This is that odometer reading at the first day of January, the start of your log. And then the days that I did not drive. So what happens here, to explain this better, we basically use these as blackout dates in order to not schedule any drives on those dates, except for personal drives. So business category drives will not end up on these blackout dates. So, if you're driving a lot on the weekends because you're trying to make, the most money, great. Maybe you took a week out in the summer and you didn't drive at all. And then around the holidays, you tend to not drive for work either. So let's give a little, that looks pretty good. Now, using randomize, that's what most people are utilizing. That's really the most powerful feature of ExpressMileage. So that's where we basically help you build a log with a lot of different entries, and we randomize some of the values in order to make it look the most closely resemble your driving for that particular period of time. So here, there's a couple tricks here I want to point out. If we're doing Uber driving, let's edit this, not client visit, but Uber driving, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a couple of those. So I'm going to change this one below it to also Uber driving. And you'll see why in a minute. Errands and supplies, that is fine. Meals, entertainment, we don't really do that with Uber. And then travel, etc. Personal visit, so that one, how about not personal visit, but how about personal travel? And that's about it. So we've got two different Uber drivers and errands and supplies that we are going to use here. Errand supplies, let's say we'll put fuel or something in there. That works. Okay, make sure we check all those that we're going to use. And because we need personal mileage to be added to our mileage log, we must select a personal category item, or else the system won't know to generate any personal mileage. Okay, now let's enter in a low number for this first item and a high number for the second one. So these are your longer drives, right? In fact, we could go in and add one more that's a really long drive. Let's do that. We're going to edit this guy. Went back, just this is going to be another Uber driving. And now we've got 3 Uber drivings, right? We're going to do small, medium, and large. So Uber driving, this one's 75 miles. This is 20 miles. This is 5 miles. Those are the average distances. These, we could be single point-to-point distances, but what is better to use is just round trip because the IRS allows us to use a single entry for a round trip. So these could be a little bit larger since they're going to be round trip. And the point for Uber, it's point to point always, right? So that's not as important. But for other folks, if you're a realtor or somebody and you're going from an office back, back and forth to properties, that round trip can be mentioned here just once as the total instead of a single. So location. Location is where we're going to be driving. I see this happen a lot, right? So people put specific addresses, right? We don't want specific addresses. The reason being is it makes it very difficult to be generalized within your log and build a very large scale log using specific locations. And it's very difficult to say I was on this side of town and then an hour later I was on this other side of town and there's no connection between those two in your log. So the pro tip here is to go ahead and use generalized locations. So I'm going to say Chicago metro area for all of my Uber driving. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay. And then this errands, supplies, and fuel. Maybe that's just where Northfield, Illinois, right? That could be the general region that I live in, and that's where I do most of my errands. So I'm doing all my driving all throughout the Chicago metro area, and then and so you get the idea. We've got a very large metro area to pull from when we're using something like a major city, or maybe multiple places. So you could also do, say, list 3 different cities, in that location, and that would also cover you. So that could be Chicago, downtown Chicago, Northfield, Batavia, right, etc. So leaving that location extremely generalized is only going to make it easier to build your log and also more difficult for anyone to retroactively poke holes in your driving log. So let's enter in a number here. We're going to enter in a value, average of personal there, and let's do Northfield and surrounding areas. Okay, now low number here. Average times that you're going to do this drive is, as an Uber driver, let's say 6 times a day. Larger, how about 3 times a week? 3 times a week. Errands and supplies, about once a day. Uber driving, very large, that is monthly, twice a month. Okay, as I'm entering these, look at what happens. See the values here, total miles for this particular one goes up. That in turn makes the total business miles go up and the total miles, grand total miles go up. So that is very important for us because we need to make sure we hit the number we were looking for, which is 35,000 miles for business, and I believe 12,000 is what I put in, for personal. So make sure that we give the system enough frequency to be able to hit those numbers for you. So daily, this is a personal travel. I'm at 6,800. If I do 2 times a day, now I'm at 17,000. The way that works is we are basically taking that 20 miles a day, doing it 2 times a day, and multiplying that by the 342 days, and this is just a general calculation here, and getting 17,000 miles over the period of the year. So the system's doing that calculation for you right in front of you, so you make sure you hit that number of 12,000 or go higher. And if we go higher, no problem at all. We can always trim the log. But you go lower, the system will only generate what you tell it to, so it's going to go generate less than what we actually need. Okay, so I need to add in a couple more drives here. I'm now at 28,000, and we'll add a couple long monthlies that go in there. And looks like I probably need another metro area, larger. Here we go. These are going up a little bit more, but really the big one is when I add in the daily, it shoots way up. Okay, so now we're at 37,000 miles for business, 17,000 for personal, for a total of 54,000 miles. So great. We overshot our grand total here of 47,000 miles that we're targeting, and we're going to let the system do the rest. Trim log? You're going over the amount that you had targeted, and do you want us to automatically trim your log back to approximately 35,000 miles? Yes. Same thing with personal? Yes. So I'm going to say trim both and hit confirm. And this section here is where the magic of Express Mileage, I did say ExpressMileage, that's great, happens. The drives are now being built out in the log, and the log is being populated. So we ended up with a total very close to what we were shooting for, okay? 34,000 miles for business, 11,180, 885 miles for personal. That's extremely close to get, with the first round of auto population. So I like that. That is perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to need. I want to go in here. I'm going to look at what my deduction rate is really quickly. This is a 2019 log, so I want to verify. It is 58 cents per mile. Great. I can reach this screen here from the calendar screen. I go to rates in units, and here within the rates in units page, I can adjust that. I could put 585, but it's just 58 cents per mile. So that's easy. While I'm in here, I'll explain one more item here. Variance. Variance is interesting. Basically, this just injects a different some noise into your log. This gives you the ability to adjust if you have a log that has a lot of similar values. You want them to be adjusted by 1% or 2%, plus or minus. This is where you do it. So I could say, I want my log entries, all of them, the distances, to be adjusted greater than, up 1% or down 1%, or somewhere in between. And that will introduce more variance within the log. Since we're using auto-populate, we're not going to need that. The system does it all for us, but good to know that it's there if you wanted to use it. Let's go back and take a look at the calendar. Here's what we got. We got a log that is chock full of drives. Got a lot of driving. We of course, we had to hit 46,000 miles, and so that requires a lot of driving. And our key over here shows us the high days, medium days, and low days for driving, and then the blackout dates are obviously in black. I'm real close to this 46,000 or 47,000 that I was targeting. And so if I'm looking at the business miles and I wanted to add more to get closer to that target of 35,000 miles that I was looking to add, I could go in two different ways. I could go in and just click on a date and look at my log and then add in a couple of dates, right, or drives. So personal, this is a business, sorry, and this is Metro Chicago area. This is Uber driving, and the distance is 25.5 miles, and we're done. So we added that particular entry, and we're doing that one at a time, right? Oh, I noticed something. Look at this. I did not select the vehicle, so that's a problem. Let's go make sure we pick the vehicle and update it. Great. Okay. The other way that you could do, you can add in things pretty quickly, is you could click on New Drive also up here, and then pick a starting date, 23rd of January. I could add repeating drives that happen on a weekly or monthly basis. So let's say I needed every week on Wednesday, please add, it starts on the 23rd of January, ends on, you pick a date, right? So it could be far out in the distance here, ends here, and we add a drive. So it asks, now that it's set up for repeat, it has all the information for repeat, and we just need to tell it, okay, we got a business drive. This is also in Chicago metro area, and the purpose is Uber driving, and this one is around 47 miles and 0.1. Add that one. Now we got a repeating drive that just got it added, And we just crossed over, because we added that on a weekly basis, we just crossed over the 35,000 miles that we were looking for. So we need to reduce the number. I can do that a couple different ways. I can go in and just modify these items here, find Uber driving, start taking down a couple of them. And this is where we just fine tune it, right? So I'm going to bring this one down to 2.2 miles, update. Go back, check my totals. I'm getting closer. That's a great way to do it. Another way to do it is, once I download the spreadsheet, I can also change the values within the spreadsheet very easily. So let me bring up the spreadsheet from this particular log here, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we would just simply click on the download log button, go grab the spreadsheet, and we can bring up the spreadsheet, and it looks like this, right? We've got values throughout this that match what we were looking to do. And you'll notice the distance column is what we really key off of here. So distance is the total drive distance for that particular drive. And then value is the deduction rate, in this case 58 cents per mile. So it's 58 cents times 13.1 miles, and that gives you $7.60. Hopefully that all makes sense to you. If you had tolls, those would be there in the column J, and then everything gets totaled between the value and the total, or the tolls, and we end up with the grand total of value for that particular drive. So now that we know how that works, let's look at how we could quickly adjust our grand total to match 35,000 miles, right? So that's what we're really after here. So I might go in and just tell the system that we want to basically we're going to try to bring totals to the individual drives down to 35,000 miles. Let's go in and split the screen here so we can constantly see our grand total, and then check out what happens. I can go in real quick here and start adjusting these entries, right? By adjusting each entry, and make sure I'm doing business ones, 2.2, I'm getting this number closer and closer, right, to my target. Another way to do it is, and I just adjust a few of those, okay? So go through, instead of 17, I can do 7.1, right? So I'm slowly moving the needle. Another way to do it really quickly, wipe out some dates, okay? Or wipe out some drives. I'm gonna go in and just delete these, okay? See what happens to my total? It starts falling pretty quickly. So if I'm looking at, I could sort these, I could just pull out only the Uber ones. But if I just go in and pull out a handful of them, I'm going to end up really close to my target. Now, one word of advice is don't hit a grand total that's a round number, right? It would be highly unlikely that I would drive the entire year and stop my vehicle as it hit, for business purposes, 35,000 miles even on the nose, right? That is very, very unlikely. So I want to make sure it's close to that number, but not, it doesn't need to be right on the number of 35,000 miles. So anyway, you get the idea here. We're getting a lot closer to that number. Here we're just very close to getting into the 35,000 range, and that's all just from just trimming some entries out here and there wherever you felt like, okay, this is a good day that I probably didn't have a lot of driving. I could also go back and sort and look. Okay, so now I could sort by any of these columns, right, and pull out some bigger items to make that process faster. So if you're at all familiar with Excel, this is a great place to do your editing. if you're trying to hit grand totals. It's also a great place to do editing if you need your mileage. So notice your odometer readings are here. So the odometer reading at the beginning and the end of each drive, those are listed here in column C and column D. So we get the question fairly frequently, hey, how do I make sure that on January 25th that my mileage matches X, Y, and Z, right? So it needs to be 30,000 miles exactly on January 15th, okay? So in this case, it happened to fall almost on that number, right? So we're at January 15th, it rolls to 30,000. So that actually is great. If I needed to adjust it, again, I could adjust above here because, and by adding numbers or adding distance to each one of these drives, I'm going to increase the odometer reading, and I can kind of target a certain date by doing that. Much easier to do that within the spreadsheet than within the tool, just because of the nature of data and what the tool is good at and what spreadsheets are good at. So anyhow, I hope I've covered a lot of information here. I hope most of it is relevant or interesting to you. If you have any questions, always feel free. Go ahead and hit the support button down here in the corner of our website, and you can send us a message, and we'll get right back to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for your time. This is ExpressMileage mileage log generator or driving log generator, and we'll be back here again with some more how-to videos. Thanks for your attention today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.